Jane's heart sinks. They left her alone. The question echoes in her mind as she stares at her 9-year-old daughter, trembling hands gripping a mop that's almost as tall as she is. The kitchen floor beneath Lily's bare feet is still wet, streaked with the evidence of whatever mess she'd been forced to clean up by herself. Jane drops her work bag by the door, the sound echoing through the eerily quiet house. No laughter from the living room. No cartoon voices from the TV. No sound of David's parents chatting in their usual spot on the couch. Just silence, and her little girl alone. "Sweetheart," Jane whispers, rushing to kneel beside Lily. "How long have you been by yourself?" Lily's eyes dart toward the clock on the microwave. It reads 3:47 p.m. Jane's mind races. She'd spoken to Linda at noon, asking how everything was going. "Oh, the girls are having such a wonderful time," Linda had said in that cheerful voice she always used. "Don't worry about a thing, dear. But there's no wonderful time happening here. There's just Lily," her small shoulders shaking as she tries to explain. "I spilled my juice box at lunch," Lily says, her voice barely above a whisper. "Grandma Linda said I had to clean it all up before I could have any snacks or watch TV. She said I needed to learn responsibility." Jane feels something cold settle in her stomach. "Where's Grandpa Jim?" "He went with them. To the water park." Lily's voice cracks. They said it was a special trip just for Mia, because she's been such a good girl." The words hit Jane like a physical blow. A special trip. Just for Mia, while her daughter was left behind to mop floors like some kind of punishment. Jane gently takes the mop from Lily's hands and pulls her into a hug. Lily melts against her, and Jane can feel the exhaustion in her small body. How long had she been working? How long had she been alone in this house, trying to earn the approval of grandparents who clearly saw her as less than their biological granddaughter? "Mom," Lily whispers against Jane's shoulder. "Did I do something wrong? Is that why they didn't take me?" The question breaks Jane's heart into 1,000 pieces, because she knows the truth that Lily's too young to understand. It wasn't about spilled juice or responsibility or being good. It was about blood. It was about the fact that no matter how much love Jane and David poured into this family, no matter how officially they'd made Lily a Parker, there were still people who saw adoption as somehow less than. Jane pulls back to look into Lily's eyes, those beautiful brown eyes that had captured her heart the moment she'd first held her as a grieving 3-year-old. "You didn't do anything wrong, baby. Not a single thing." But even as she says the words, Jane's mind is spinning. Where exactly were Jim and Linda? How long had they planned this water park trip without including Lily? And more importantly, how many other times had something like this happened when Jane wasn't around to see it? She helps Lily to her feet and guides her toward the living room, her eyes scanning for clues. The house feels different somehow. Too clean, too quiet, like it's been scrubbed of evidence. "Lily, honey, I need you to tell me exactly what happened today. From the beginning." As Lily begins to speak, Jane realizes this isn't just about a spilled juice box or an impromptu water park trip. This is about something much deeper, much more painful, something that's been building for months, maybe years, right under her nose. And as her daughter's story unfolds, Jane makes a decision that will change everything. But to understand how we got here, I need to take you back 6 years. Back to the phone call that changed everything. It was 2:30 in the morning when my phone rang. My sister Emma had been driving home from her nursing shift at the hospital. A drunk driver ran a red light and hit her car head-on. She died instantly, they told me. But somehow miraculously, 3-year-old Lily survived with just a few bruises and a concussion. I remember standing in that sterile hospital hallway staring down at this tiny girl who had just lost the only parent she'd ever known. Emma had been a single mom and Lily's father was never in the picture. There was no one else, just me. The social worker was gentle but direct. "Miss Parker, we need to discuss Lily's future. Are there any family members who might be willing to take her in?" I didn't hesitate, not for a second. "She's coming home with me." What followed were the most challenging and beautiful 18 months of my life. The adoption process was grueling. background checks, home visits, psychological evaluations, court dates. But through it all, Lily and I were building something precious. She'd wake up crying for her mommy, and I'd hold her until the tears stopped. She'd ask me why Emma couldn't come back, and I'd try to explain death to a 3-year-old in ways that wouldn't terrify her. Slowly, gradually, she started calling me Mama Jane. Then just Mama. And when the judge finally signed those adoption papers, making it official, we both cried happy tears. That's when David came into our lives. I met him at a coffee shop near my office. Lily was with me coloring in her princess coloring book while I worked on my laptop. David was at the next table, and when Lily accidentally dropped her crayon, he picked it up and handed it back to her with this gentle smile. "That's a beautiful castle you're coloring," he told her. "It's for princesses like me," Lily replied matter-of-factly. "Well, every princess needs a beautiful castle," David said, and something in his voice told me he actually understood kids, not just tolerated them. We started talking. One coffee led to dinner. Dinner led to weekend trips to the zoo with Lily. And somehow, without me even realizing it, David became part of our little family. When he proposed 2 years later, he didn't just get down on one knee for me. He knelt down to Lily's level first and pulled out a small jewelry box. "Lily," he said, his voice shaking with emotion, "I love your mama very much. But I love you too, and if she says yes to marrying me, I want to know if you'd be okay with me being your dad." Inside the box was a delicate silver necklace with a small heart pendant. "Every princess needs a crown," he told her, "but hearts are even more important." Lily threw her arms around his neck and whispered, "Yes, Daddy David." 6 months after our wedding, David officially adopted Lily. We stood in that same courthouse where I'd first become her mother, and now we were making it complete. The Parkers, a real family bound not just by love but by law. And that's when we met David's parents. Jim and Linda Parker seemed wonderful at first. They welcomed us with open arms, threw us an engagement party, helped plan the wedding. Linda even insisted on taking Lily shopping for flower girl dresses. "She's such a sweet child," Linda would say, patting Lily's head like she was a pet. "You're so lucky David is willing to take on this responsibility." Take on this responsibility. The words should have been a red flag, but I was so happy, so grateful to have found a love again, that I let it slide. After the adoption was finalized, Jim and Linda invited us over for a celebration dinner. They'd hung balloons and made Lily's favorite mac and cheese. It felt perfect, like we truly belonged. But as the months went by, I started noticing things. Small things. Things I told myself I was probably imagining. At family gatherings, there would be dozens of photos of David's cousins' kids displayed around the house. Professional portraits, school pictures, vacation snapshots, but only 1 or 2 of Lily, usually tucked away on a side table or buried among other decorations. Christmas gifts told a similar story. David's nephew got the latest gaming console. His niece got a brand new bike. Lily got pajamas and socks. Nice pajamas and socks, but still. "We didn't want to spoil her," Linda would explain when David's eyebrows raised. "We know money's been tight with all the adoption expenses." Money wasn't tight. David and I both had good jobs, but I smiled and nodded because I wanted so desperately for this to work. The comments started small too. Casual observations that felt like tiny paper cuts. "She's got such an interesting look," Linda said, once studying Lily's face. "Very exotic." She doesn't look much like you two," became a regular refrain, usually delivered with a wine glass in hand and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Well, of course not," David would reply firmly. "That's not what family is about." But I could see the wheels turning in Linda's head. The unspoken message was clear. Real family, blood family looked alike. Everything else was just playing house. The breaking point should have been last Thanksgiving. We'd gathered at Jim and Linda's house with all the extended family. David's brother brought his 8-year-old daughter Mia, their biological granddaughter. I watched as Linda fussed over Mia, fixing her hair, cutting her turkey into perfect bites, taking photo After photo. Meanwhile, Lily sat quietly trying to get Linda's attention by showing her the turkey drawing she'd made at school. "That's nice, dear," Linda said without really looking. "Why don't you go wash your hands? You've got marker on your fingers." Later, when the kids were playing in the living room, I overheard Linda talking to her sister in the kitchen. "Don't get me wrong, Jane's a lovely girl, and what she did for that child is admirable. But Mia is our real granddaughter, you know. There's just something special about blood." I stood frozen in the hallway holding the dessert plates I'd been carrying, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. That night, driving home, I tried to talk to David about it. "Maybe I'm being too sensitive," I said, "but I feel like your parents treat Lily differently." "They're still adjusting," David replied, his hands tight on the steering wheel. "It's not that they don't love her. They just need time." Time. It had been almost 3 years, but I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him, because the alternative was too painful to consider. The inequality became impossible to ignore when Mia turned 8. Christmas morning at the Parker house was like watching two completely different holidays unfold simultaneously. Under the tree, there were two distinct piles of presents. Mia's pile towered like a small mountain, wrapped in expensive paper with elaborate bows. Lily's pile consisted of 3 modest boxes, wrapped in leftover paper from last year. I sat on the couch, coffee growing cold in my hands, watching my daughter's face, as Mia tore into gift after gift. The latest iPad, a professional art set, designer clothes, a brand new bike with pink streamers, and a bell that played music. Meanwhile, Lily unwrapped a pack of socks with cartoon characters on them, a clearance rack sweater that was clearly too big, and a generic coloring book. "What do you say, Lily?" Linda prompted, her voice sharp with expectation. "Thank you, Grandma Linda and Grandpa Jim," Lily said quietly, holding up the socks with a forced smile. "Oh, good girl," Linda patted her head. "It's important to be grateful for what you receive." I felt David stiffen beside me. Even he couldn't pretend this was normal. "Mom," he said carefully, "maybe next year we could coordinate better on gifts. Make sure things are a bit more balanced." Linda's laugh was light but cold. "Oh, David, we can't spoil everyone equally. Mia's our only biological granddaughter. She holds a special place in our hearts." The words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Lily was sitting right there, holding her discount store socks, absorbing every syllable. Easter was somehow worse. The annual egg hunt at Jim and Linda's house was a tradition David had grown up with. But this year I watched in growing horror as Linda secretly placed twice as many eggs in areas where she'd directed Mia to search. "Grandma Linda," Lily called out, holding up her small basket with only 4 eggs. "I can't find very many." "Well, you need to look harder, dear," Linda replied, not even glancing up from where she was photographing Mia with her overflowing basket. I started to get up ready to help Lily search, but Linda's voice stopped me. "Let her learn to be more resourceful, Jane. She can't always have things handed to her." Meanwhile, Mia was literally being handed eggs by Jim, who was lifting her up to reach ones he'd placed high in the trees. That night, after we got home, Lily climbed into my lap while I was reading on the couch. "Mama," she said, her voice small and uncertain, "Grandma Linda says I should be grateful you adopted me. She says not every kid gets a second chance at a family." My heart stopped. "She said that to you," Lily nodded, picking at a thread on my sweater. "She says some kids never get adopted at all, so I should be happy with what I have and not expect too much." I pulled her closer, fighting back tears. "Lily, sweetheart, look at me. You are not a charity case. You are my daughter. Our daughter. You deserve just as much love and just as many Easter eggs and Christmas presents as any other child in this family." But even as I said the words, I could see the doubt in her eyes. At only 9 years old, she was already internalizing the message that she was somehow less deserving, less worthy of love and attention. That night, I confronted David. "This has to stop," I said, pacing our bedroom while he sat on the edge of the bed. "Your parents are damaging her. They're making her feel like she's not really part of this family." David rubbed his face with his hands. "They're old school, babe. They grew up in a different time when adoption wasn't as common. They're trying their best. Their best isn't good enough, I shot back. And frankly, I'm tired of making excuses for them. They love her, David insisted. They just show it differently. Do they? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like they tolerate her. There's a difference. Oh, David was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, maybe I could talk to them, explain how their actions are coming across. But I was done with talking. I was done with diplomatic conversations and gentle suggestions. I needed proof of what was really happening. I needed David to see what I was seeing. So I started paying closer attention, really listening, and what I discovered made my blood run cold. It happened during a barbecue at their house the following month. I was in the kitchen, helping Linda prepare side dishes while the kids played outside. David and Jim were manning the grill, and Linda thought we were alone. Her sister Carol was visiting, and they were talking in low voices about Mia's upcoming birthday party. We're thinking of having it at that new trampoline place, Linda said, chopping vegetables. Mia's been wanting to try it for months. That sounds wonderful, Carol replied. Are you inviting all the grandkids? Linda paused, her knife hovering over a tomato. Well, Mia specifically asked for it to be just her close friends from school. We don't want to overwhelm her with too many people. I stepped closer to the doorway, staying out of sight, but within earshot. What about Lily? Carol asked. Won't she feel left out? Oh, we'll do something small for her when her birthday comes around, Linda said dismissively. But honestly, Carol, we have to be careful not to let Lily feel too entitled. She's not actually our granddaughter, you know? We're doing this as a favor to David. A favor to David? My hands started shaking. I quietly pulled out my phone and hit record. I mean, don't get me wrong. Linda continued, her voice taking on that fake sweetness she used whenever she talked about Lily to others. What Jane did was admirable, taking in her sister's child like that. But we can't pretend it's the same as having a real grandchild. Blood is blood. But David adopted her legally, Carol pointed out. Doesn't that make her your granddaughter too? Linda's laugh was sharp. Legally, yes, but emotionally, there's just something different about a child who carries your DNA. When I look at Mia, I see David's eyes, my mother's nose. She's a continuation of our family line. Lily is, well, she's a lovely child, but she's not really ours. I stood there in the hallway, phone still recording, feeling like I was going to be sick. This wasn't about being old-fashioned or needing time to adjust. This was about fundamental beliefs that would never change. We just have to be smart about it, Linda was saying. We can't treat them exactly the same, but we also can't be obvious about it. We don't want David thinking we're being unfair. So you'll keep doing separate birthday parties? Carol asked. Oh yes. Mia needs to know she's special. She needs to understand her place in this family. And Lily needs to understand hers. I had heard enough. I stopped recording and quietly backed away from the kitchen, my heart pounding so hard, I was sure everyone could hear it. Later that evening, when we were home and Lily was asleep, I showed David the recording. He listened in silence, his face growing paler with each word. When Linda's voice said, "She's not really ours," I watched something break inside him. "I had no idea," he whispered when it was over. "I mean, I knew they seemed a little distant sometimes, but this—" "They've been planning Mia's birthday party without inviting Lily," I said quietly. "Your mother just said our daughter isn't really their granddaughter. She called taking care of Lily a favor to you." David was quiet for a long time, staring at the phone in his hands. "What do we do?" he finally asked. And that's when I realized that everything was about to change. Because I was done protecting people who refused to protect my daughter. I was done making excuses for behavior that was slowly but surely destroying a 9-year-old's sense of self-worth. The next phase of this story was going to be very different. 3 weeks after I'd recorded that conversation, life threw us a curveball that would test everything. My boss called on a Tuesday morning with news I'd been both hoping for and dreading. The New York client I'd been courting for months had finally agreed to a meeting, but they wanted to see me in person. Thursday, And Friday, it was the kind of opportunity that could change my career. I have to take this, I told David over breakfast, watching Lily carefully spread peanut butter on her toast. But the timing is terrible. What's the problem? David asked, glancing up from his laptop where he was checking emails. That's when his phone rang. His face went from curious to stressed in about 10 seconds. Seattle, he said after hanging up. Emergency with the Morrison account. They want me there Thursday morning. The whole deal could fall apart if I don't go. We stared at each other across the kitchen table while Lily hummed quietly to herself, completely oblivious to the crisis unfolding around her. Mrs. Rodriguez, I suggested thinking of our usual babysitter. David was already shaking his head. She's visiting her daughter in Phoenix this week, remember? We ran through our list of backup options. My friend Sarah was out of town. David's college buddy, who sometimes helped out, was working double shifts at the hospital. Our neighbor was dealing with her own sick kids. What about your parents? David suggested carefully, his voice neutral in that way that meant he knew this was complicated. I felt my stomach tighten. After everything I'd learned after that recording, the idea of leaving Lily alone with Jim and Linda felt like putting a lamb in a wolf's den. David, after what we heard them say, I know, he said quietly, glancing at Lily to make sure she wasn't listening. But maybe this could actually be good. Maybe having one-on-one time with her without all the other family drama might help them see her differently. I wanted to argue. Every instinct in my body was screaming that this was a bad idea. But we were desperate, and David looked so hopeful, so convinced that his parents just needed a chance to really bond with Lily. They raised me, he added softly. They can't be that bad with kids. Against my better judgment, I called Linda. Of course, we'd love to have Lily stay with us, Linda said, her voice bright and cheerful. It'll be so nice to have some special grandmother-granddaughter time. The way she said granddaughter made me pause, but David was nodding encouragingly from across the room. Are you sure it's not too much trouble? I asked. No trouble at all. We'll take wonderful care of her. You just focus on your work. That evening, I knelt down in front of Lily while she packed her little overnight bag. She was so excited, carefully choosing which stuffed animals to bring and which pajamas would be best for a sleepover at Grandma and Grandpa's house. Mama, do you think Grandma Linda will make pancakes for breakfast? She asked, holding up her favorite purple pajamas. I'm sure she'll take good care of you, I said, pushing down the anxiety clawing at my chest. Lily, sweetheart, I want you to remember something while I'm gone, okay? She stopped packing and looked at me with those serious brown eyes. You don't have to earn anyone's love, I told her, taking her small hands in mine. You don't have to be perfect or extra good or extra grateful. You're wonderful exactly as you are. Just be a kid, okay? Have fun, be yourself, and if anything feels wrong or makes you uncomfortable, you call me immediately. Lily nodded solemnly. I will, Mama. I promise. I love you to the moon and back, I said, pulling her into a hug. And I love you to Jupiter and back, she replied, our usual routine. David drove her over to his parents' house while I finished packing for New York. When he came home, he seemed relieved. They were great, he reported. Mom had already set up the guest room with extra pillows, and Dad was showing Lily his old model train set. She seemed really happy. I tried to share his optimism, but something felt off. Maybe it was just my own anxiety, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was making a terrible mistake. The first day went fine. I called that evening from my hotel room in Manhattan, and Linda answered on the second ring. Oh, Jane, she's having a wonderful time, Linda gushed. We took her to the park this afternoon, and she helped me bake cookies. She's such a sweet child. Can I talk to her? I asked. Of course, but she's in the bathroom right now. I'll have her call you back in a few minutes. 20 minutes passed, then an hour. Finally, my phone rang. Mama. Lily's voice was bright and excited. Guess what? I helped make chocolate chip cookies, and Grandpa Jim taught me how to play checkers. We talked for about 10 minutes and she seemed genuinely happy. Maybe David was right. Maybe this was exactly what they all needed. The second day was when things started to feel wrong. I called that evening after a long day of meetings, exhausted but hopeful about the potential new contract. It was almost 8 o'clock, a bit later than I'd planned to call. Linda answered again, but this time her voice was different. Clipped, slightly irritated. "Oh, Jane. Hi." "Hi, Linda. How was Lily's day? Can I talk to her?" "She's already asleep," Linda said quickly. "We had a very busy day, and she was quite tired." Something in her tone made my stomach clench. "Already asleep? It's only 8 o'clock. She usually doesn't go to bed until 9. Well, she had a bit of a difficult day. Sometimes she gets overwhelmed, you know. All that extra stimulation. We thought it would be best if she had some quiet time and an early bedtime." A difficult day? Lily had never had difficult days with us. She was one of the most well-behaved kids I knew. "What kind of difficult day?" I pressed. "Oh, you know how children can be. A bit moody, a bit demanding, nothing we couldn't handle. Don't worry about it, Jane. Get some rest." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, every alarm bell in my head going off at once. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I tried calling back, but it went straight to voicemail. I called 3 more times over the next hour. Each time voicemail. Finally, I called David. "I'm sure everything's fine," he said, but I could hear the doubt creeping into his voice. Maybe they just turned the ringer off so Lily could sleep. "David, your mother said Lily had a difficult day. Since when has Lily ever had difficult days?" "I'll call them," he promised. "I'll check in first thing in the morning." But I couldn't sleep. I lay in that hotel bed in Manhattan, staring at the ceiling, every maternal instinct screaming that something was terribly wrong. I kept thinking about that recording, about Linda's voice saying, "We don't want Lily to feel too entitled." What did that mean in practice? What was happening to my daughter right now? I called David at 6 in the morning. "Did you reach them?" I asked before he was even fully awake. "Jane, it's 6 a.m. They're probably still sleeping." "Call them. Now." 20 minutes later, David called me back. "I talked to Dad. He says everything's fine. Lily's helping Mom make breakfast." "Did you talk to Lily?" A pause. "She was busy with breakfast, but Dad says she's in good spirits." Another red flag. Lily always wanted to talk to us when we called. She'd never been too busy with anything. "David, I'm coming home early." "Jane, you're being paranoid. This contract could change everything for your career." "And Lily is everything to me," I shot back. "I'm getting the first flight out." As I sat in the taxi to LaGuardia Airport, I kept thinking about that last conversation with Linda. The irritation in her voice, the quick dismissal, the way she'd hung up so abruptly. And then there was something else. Something that hadn't quite registered at the time but was now bothering me immensely. In the background of that phone call, I'd heard something. Faint, but definitely there. Crying. A child crying. And Linda had said Lily was already asleep. Since breakfast. The words echoed in my head as I held my trembling daughter in that empty kitchen. Since breakfast. It was nearly 4 in the afternoon. "Lily," I said, gently pulling back to look at her face. "What time did they leave?" She wiped her nose with the back of her hand, leaving a small streak across her cheek. "After we ate pancakes. Grandma Linda said Mia was coming over for a special day and they were going to take her somewhere fun." "And when did Mia get there?" "Around 9, I think they were really excited to see her. Grandpa Jim picked her up and spun her around, and Grandma Linda had already packed a big bag with snacks and towels." I felt something cold and sharp twist in my stomach. They'd planned this. They'd planned a special outing with Mia and deliberately left Lily behind. "What happened with the juice, sweetheart?" Lily's lower lip started to tremble again. I was trying to pour orange juice into my cup, but the pitcher was really heavy. It slipped, and juice went everywhere. On the counter, on the floor, even on the cabinets. "Accidents happen, baby. That's what paper towels are for." "That's what I thought, too," Lily said, her voice getting smaller. But Grandma Linda got really upset. She said I was being careless and clumsy and that I needed to learn to be more careful with other people's things. I could picture it perfectly. Linda's face pinched with irritation, her voice taking on that sharp edge I'd heard too many times before. She said I had to clean up every drop before I could have any breakfast. But then when Mia came, she helped her make a special smoothie and didn't make her clean up anything, even though she spilled some on the counter too. The unfairness of it made my chest tight with anger. A 9-year-old struggling with a heavy pitcher while the adults fawned over their favorite child. After breakfast, Grandma Linda told me I needed to do the dishes while they got ready to go out. She said it would teach me responsibility. But then when they were leaving, she saw some sticky spots on the floor where the juice had been. Lily's voice cracked as she continued. She said I hadn't done a good enough job cleaning, and that I needed to mop the whole kitchen floor before I could have any lunch or watch TV or anything. She said I had to learn that actions have consequences. Actions have consequences. I wanted to scream. What about the consequences of emotionally abusing a child? What about the consequences of leaving a 9-year-old alone for 7 hours? She gave me the mop and showed me how to fill the bucket. She said the floor had to be spotless and that she'd check it when they got back. I looked down at Lily's knees, finally registering what I was seeing. Red marks. Raw, angry patches where she'd been kneeling on the hard kitchen tiles for hours. Baby, how long have you been scrubbing? I don't know. A really long time. I kept thinking I was done, but then I'd see another spot, or the floor would dry and show streaks. I wanted it to be perfect, so Grandma Linda wouldn't be mad anymore. My heart shattered into a million pieces. She'd been trying to earn love through perfection, spending hours on her hands and knees, trying to clean away the evidence of a simple accident that any reasonable adult would have helped her clean up in 5 minutes. Lily, did they give you lunch before they left? She shook her head. Grandma Linda said I had to finish cleaning first, but I kept making mistakes and the mop was really heavy and sometimes I would accidentally step in the wet spots and leave footprints. I pulled her back into my arms, fury and heartbreak warring in my chest. They'd left a hungry child alone for 7 hours, forcing her to do manual labor as punishment for an accident. Have you eaten anything since breakfast? I found some crackers in the pantry around lunchtime, she whispered. But I was scared to take too many because Grandma Linda says I need to learn not to just take things without asking. I stood up so fast that Lily stumbled backward. In 3 quick strides, I was at the refrigerator pulling out everything I could find. Leftover pizza fruit yogurt, anything that could constitute a meal. Sit, I told her, pointing to the kitchen table. Eat whatever you want. While Lily tentatively bit into a slice of cold pizza, I examined the kitchen more carefully. The floor was indeed spotless, cleaner than I'd ever seen it, but I could see the evidence of her struggle. The mop bucket still half full of dirty water, wet rags piled by the sink, and most damning of all, a kitchen chair pulled up to the counter where she'd obviously climbed up to reach the cleaning supplies. On the counter, I found a note in Linda's handwriting. Lily, the floor must be completely clean before you can have any treats or screen time. We'll check when we return. Grandma Linda, treats or screen time, as if food and basic entertainment were privileges to be earned through child labor. I photographed the note, the mop bucket, the marks on Lily's knees. Evidence. Because I knew that when I confronted them about this, they'd find ways to minimize it to make it sound reasonable. Mama, Lily said quietly, still holding her pizza. Am I in trouble for not finishing the floor? I knelt down beside her chair and took her free hand in mine. Lily, listen to me very carefully. You are not in trouble. You did nothing wrong. Nothing. Do you understand me? She nodded, but I could see the confusion in her eyes. In her world, adults were always right. If Grandma Linda said she needed to clean the floor, then she needed to clean the floor. Sometimes, I said carefully, adults make mistakes too. Sometimes they ask children to do things that aren't fair or appropriate. What happened here today was not okay. But I did spill the juice, Lily said, But I wasn't ready to confront them yet. Not until I knew the full scope of what had happened. So, when I heard that front door open, I quickly ushered Lily up the back stairs to her room before they could see us. Lily, where are you, sweetheart? Linda's voice carried up from the kitchen, sweet as honey. We brought you something special from the gift shop. I closed Lily's bedroom door and sat down on her bed beside her. Before we deal with them, I said quietly, I need you to tell me everything that happened, not just today, the whole time you've been here. Lily looked down at her hands, picking at the hem of her shirt. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. Lily, look at me. I gently lifted her chin. Remember what I told you about how sometimes adults make mistakes? Well, sometimes when adults make mistakes, other adults need to know about it so they can help fix things. Can you help me understand what really happened? She nodded slowly and began to talk. The story that emerged over the next 30 minutes made me physically ill. The first night, while I was in my hotel room thinking everything was fine, Lily had been relegated to the guest room while Mia got Linda's attention in the living room. When Lily had asked if she could watch TV too, Linda told her that Mia was visiting and deserved special treatment as a guest. But I'm visiting too, Lily had pointed out. You're different, dear, Linda had replied. You're staying here because we're doing your parents a favor. Mia is our real granddaughter. The next morning, while Linda made Mia heart-shaped pancakes with whipped cream, Lily got plain toast and was told to eat it quietly because the adults were having an important conversation about family matters that didn't concern her. When Jim set up his model train set, Mia was encouraged to play with the expensive pieces, while Lily was given a coloring book and told to entertain herself at the kitchen table. When she'd asked if she could see the trains too, Jim had said, These are family heirlooms, sweetheart. Very special. Maybe when you're older. But the worst part came when Linda's sister Carol visited on the second day. Aunt Carol asked if I was enjoying my visit. Lily told me, her voice getting smaller. And I said yes, but that I wished I could play with the trains like Mia. Grandma Linda got really upset after Aunt Carol left. I braced myself. What did she say? She sat me down and explained that some kids are born into families, and some kids have to be chosen. She said chosen kids need to be extra grateful and not expect the same things as born kids. She said that's just how families work. My hands clenched into fists. Linda had actually sat down and explained to a 9-year-old why she was worth less than her cousin. She said Daddy David's family has been very generous to include me, but that I shouldn't get confused about my place. She said real families are about blood, and everything else is just playing house. Playing house. That's what Linda thought our family was. A game of pretend. And this morning, Lily continued, when I spilled the juice, she said it was proof that I wasn't ready for the same privileges as real family members. She said maybe if I learned to be more careful and helpful, I could earn some special treatment too. I was shaking with rage, but I kept my voice calm for Lily's sake. Is there anything else, sweetheart? Anything else that made you feel bad or confused? Lily was quiet for a moment, then said, When they left for the water park, I asked why I couldn't come too. Grandma Linda said Mia needed special attention because she was going through a hard time with her parents' divorce. But then I heard her on the phone with someone and she said they couldn't bring me because it would spoil Mia's special day. You heard her say that, Lily nodded. She said, We can't have the adopted one tagging along. This day is about celebrating our real granddaughter. I stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. Below, I could see Jim unloading a wet bag from the trunk of their car. Probably Mia's swimsuit and towels from their fun day at the water park. While my daughter had been scrubbing floors until her knees bled. Lily, I said, turning back to her, I'm going to get you cleaned up and then we're going to go get some ice cream. Just you and me. And while we're out, I'm going to call Daddy David and tell him what happened. Okay? Are you going to tell him everything? Lily asked nervously. I'm going to tell him the truth, because that's what families do. Real families tell each other the truth and protect each other. An hour later, we were sitting in a booth at Lily's favorite ice cream shop. She had a double scoop of strawberry with rainbow sprinkles, and I was nursing a coffee I couldn't actually drink because my stomach was too churned up. My phone rang. David. Jane, what the hell is going on? I got your message, but I was in meetings all day. Are you saying my parents left Lily alone? I looked across the table at Lily, who was focused on her ice cream, but obviously listening. Hold on, let me step outside for a minute. I went out onto the sidewalk and told David everything. Every detail, every cruel comment, every moment of emotional abuse that his parents had inflicted on our daughter over the past 2 days. The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long that I thought the call had dropped. David, are you there? I'm here. His voice was tight with barely controlled fury. I can't believe. I knew they could be difficult, but this isn't difficult, David. This is abuse, emotional abuse of a 9-year-old child. Where are they now? Back at their house, probably wondering where we are. I left without saying anything because I needed to get Lily out of there and figure out what really happened. Good. Don't go back there. Not tonight. David, I have to confront them. I can't let this slide. If we don't address this now, they'll think this behavior is acceptable. Then we'll address it together. I'm getting on the next flight home. There's a red-eye that leaves Seattle at midnight. I'll be home by 6 a.m. You don't have to cut your trip short. I can handle this. Jane. His voice was deadly serious. These are my parents. This is my responsibility. I brought them into Lily's life, and I'm going to be the one to set the boundaries. Clear, permanent boundaries. I felt something loosen in my chest. For so long, I'd felt like I was fighting this battle alone, trying to protect Lily while David made excuses for his parents' behavior. But now, finally, he was seeing what I'd been seeing. What do you want me to do until you get home? Take Lily to a hotel for the night. Somewhere nice with a pool if she wants to swim. Order room service, watch movies, make it special. Show her what real family treatment looks like. And your parents, I'll call them when I land. I'll tell them we need to have a family meeting tomorrow morning. All of us. David, I'm not bringing Lily to another confrontation. She's been through enough. No, she'll stay with Sarah or someone. This conversation is going to be adults only, and it's going to be very clear about what happens next. When I went back inside, Lily looked up at me with worried eyes. Is Daddy mad at me? No, baby. Daddy is mad at the situation, and he's coming home early so we can all talk about it together. Are we in trouble with Grandma Linda and Grandpa Jim? I sat down across from her and reached for her hand. Lily, I want you to understand something. When adults treat children unfairly, it's not the children who are in trouble. It's the adults who need to change their behavior. So they're in trouble. They're going to have to make some big changes if they want to be part of our family, I said carefully. That evening, we checked into a nice hotel with a pool. Lily swam for an hour and we ordered pizza and watched animated movies until she fell asleep curled up next to me on the big hotel bed. But I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Linda's voice on the phone, pretending everything was fine. I kept thinking about Lily on her hands and knees, scrubbing floors and trying to earn love that should have been freely given. And I kept thinking about tomorrow morning when David and I would finally stop making excuses and start protecting our daughter the way she deserved to be protected. My phone buzzed with a text from David. Landed. On my way to their house now. They'll be ready for our conversation at 9 a.m. I looked down at Lily, sleeping peacefully for the first time in days, and typed back, they'll be back for dinner. I'm not letting them walk in like nothing happened. Tomorrow, everything would change. One way or another, this ended now. At 9 o'clock sharp the next morning, David and I walked up the front steps of his parents' house. Lily was safely at my friend Sarah's house, playing with her daughter and blissfully unaware of the confrontation about to unfold. David's jaw was set in a way I'd never seen before. He'd driven straight from the airport to the hotel, and we'd spent an hour going over everything that had happened. By the time I finished telling him about Lily scrubbing floors with bleeding knees, I thought he might actually put his fist through the hotel room wall. I can't believe I defended them, he'd said, pacing the hotel room like a caged animal. All those times, you tried to tell me something was wrong and I made excuses for them. We both wanted to believe they could change, I'd replied. But wanting something and accepting reality are two different things. Now standing on their front porch, David didn't bother knocking. He used his key and walked right in. "Mom, Dad, we need to talk." Linda appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel, her face immediately brightening when she saw David. "David, what a wonderful surprise. I thought you weren't coming back until tonight." Then her eyes found me, and her smile faltered slightly. "Jane, I wasn't expecting you back so early either. How was New York?" "We need to sit down," David said, his voice flat. "All of us, right now." Jim emerged from the living room, carrying his morning coffee and looking confused. "What's going on? Is everything all right?" "No," I said quietly. "Everything is not all right." We gathered in their formal living room, the same room where we'd had so many family celebrations over the years. The same room where I'd watched Lily be slowly but systematically excluded from the family narrative. David and I sat on one couch. Jim and Linda took the other, looking increasingly uncomfortable as the silence stretched. "Oh, where's Lily?" Linda asked, glancing toward the hallway as if expecting her to appear. "Lily is somewhere safe," David said, "which is more than I can say for the time she spent in this house." Linda's eyebrows shot up. "David, what on earth are you talking about? She had a lovely time here. We took excellent care of her." And that's when I lost it. "Excellent care." I stood up, my voice shaking with controlled rage. "You left a 9-year-old alone for 7 hours. You made her scrub floors until her knees bled as punishment for spilling juice. You told her she wasn't real family because she's adopted." The color drained from Linda's face. "Jane, I think you're misunderstanding the situation. Am I, because I found her yesterday afternoon alone in your kitchen, crying and trying to clean floor tiles with her bare hands?" "I saw the note you left her, Linda. The one that said she had to clean the entire floor before she deserved any treats or screen time." Jim cleared his throat. "Now, wait just a minute. We were teaching her responsibility. Children need structure and consequences." "Children need love and protection," David shot back. "They don't need to be treated like servants while you take their cousin to water parks." Linda's mask finally began to slip. "David, you're being dramatic. Mia needed special attention. She's going through a difficult time with the divorce." "And what about Lily?" I demanded. "What about the difficult time she's going through being told by her grandparents that she's not real family?" "Well, she's not," Linda snapped, her carefully controlled facade cracking completely. "I mean, let's be honest here. She's a lovely child, and what you did taking her in was admirable. But she's not our blood. She's not really our granddaughter." The words hung in the air like poison gas. David went very still beside me. "What did you just say?" Linda seemed to realize she'd gone too far, but instead of backing down, she doubled down. "I said she's not our blood, David. Mia is our granddaughter. Lily is, well, she's Jane's responsibility." "Jane's responsibility." David's voice was dangerously quiet. "I adopted Lily legally. She is my daughter in every way that matters. That makes her your granddaughter whether you like it or not." "Oh, please," Linda waved her hand dismissively. "Legal papers don't create real family bonds. You can't just decide someone belongs and expect the rest of us to pretend biology doesn't matter." Jim nodded in agreement. "Your mother's right, son. We've tried to include the girl, but there's just something different about raising someone else's child. It's not the same as your own flesh and blood." I pulled out my phone. "David, I think your parents need to hear what you have to say about this. Directly from you." I put the phone on speaker and dialed David's number. He looked confused for a moment, then understood. He was sitting right there, but I wanted his parents to hear his voice coming through that speaker, making it clear this wasn't just my opinion or my fight. David's voice filled the room through the phone speaker. "Mom, Dad, if you can't love my daughter the same way you love Mia, then you won't see her again. Period." Linda laughed, actually laughed. "David, don't be ridiculous. You're upset because Jane is filling your head with nonsense. Lily is sensitive, and she's probably exaggerating what happened here." "A sensitive 9-year-old, I said incredulously. "She's sensitive for being hurt that you left her alone for 7 hours. She's sensitive for wanting to be included in family activities." "She's not family," Linda said flatly. Not really, and it's not healthy to pretend otherwise. Blood is blood, Jane. You can't change that with adoption papers and wishful thinking. The room went dead silent. David stood up slowly, and I could see every muscle in his body tensing. "Get out," he said to me quietly. "David, I was confused. Get out of this house, Jane. Right now, before I say something to my parents that I can't take back." I understood. This was his fight now, his parents, his boundaries to set. But Linda wasn't done. As I gathered my purse and headed toward the door, she called after me. "We always knew you weren't right for David," she said, her voice dripping with venom. "Always knew you'd bring complications into his life. A ready-made family with a damaged child who'd never really belong." I stopped at the doorway and turned around. Linda was standing now too, her face flushed with anger, and something that looked almost like hatred. "You know what, Linda?" I said, my voice perfectly calm. "And I always knew Lily deserved better grandparents." The words hit their target perfectly. Linda's face went white, then red, then white again. "How dare you?" she whispered. "How dare I? Would tell the truth, protect my daughter from people who see her as less than. How dare I expect the same basic decency for my child that you show to every other grandchild?" Jim stepped forward. "Now, see here, young lady." "No." David's voice cut through the room like a blade. "You see here, Dad. Jane is right. Lily does deserve better grandparents. She deserves grandparents who love her unconditionally, who include her in family activities, who don't make her earn affection through manual labor." "David, you're making a terrible mistake," Linda said, her voice shaking. "You're choosing her over your own family." "I'm choosing my daughter over people who refuse to accept her as family," David replied. "There's a difference." "She's not your daughter," Linda shouted. "She's not your blood. She's not your responsibility." "She is absolutely my daughter," David said firmly. "I chose her. I adopted her. I love her. And anyone who can't accept that is not welcome in our lives." Linda looked between David and me, as if she couldn't quite believe this was happening. "You're really going to cut us out of your life over this stranger's child?" "I'm going to protect my family," David said simply. "From anyone who threatens it, including you." The silence that followed was deafening. Jim looked like he'd been slapped. Linda looked like she was about to faint. Finally, Jim cleared his throat. "David, you're upset. Maybe we should all take some time to cool down and discuss this rationally." "There's nothing to discuss," David said. "Either you treat Lily as your granddaughter with all the love and respect that entails, or you don't see her at all. Those are your choices." "And if we can't do that?" Linda asked, her voice very small. David looked at his mother for a long moment. "Then I guess we'll know where we all stand." As we walked out of that house, I felt something shift inside me. For years, I'd been trying to make this work, trying to find ways to help Jim and Linda see Lily as worthy of their love. But you can't force people to love someone. You can only protect the people you love from those who don't. And that's exactly what we were going to do. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest our little family had ever faced. David was devastated by the rift with his parents, but he never wavered in his support for Lily. Still, cutting off contact completely felt too drastic, especially when it meant Lily would lose her relationship with Mia, who genuinely loved her cousin. That's when Elena, Mia's aunt, and David's sister-in-law stepped in as an unexpected mediator. "This is insane," she told us over coffee one Saturday morning. "Mia keeps asking where Lily is, and I'm watching this family tear itself apart over something that should be so simple." Elena had always been different from the rest of David's family. Warmer, more inclusive, more focused on building bridges than maintaining arbitrary hierarchies. "What if we tried supervised visits?" she suggested. "Just for the kids' sake. They can see each other at my house with me there to make sure things stay appropriate." It was Elena who also gently but firmly told Jim and Linda exactly what their behavior looked like from the outside. "You're hurting a child," she told them bluntly. "A child who lost her mother and has been trying so hard to earn your love. Do you really want that on your conscience? While Elena worked on damage control with the extended family, David and I focused on helping Lily heal. We found an excellent child therapist, Dr. Martinez, who specialized in adoption and family trauma. At first, Lily was reluctant to talk to a stranger about family problems. "Are you and Daddy getting divorced?" she asked me after her first session, her voice small and worried. "No, sweetheart. Daddy and I love each other very much, and we both love you very much. Sometimes families need help working through difficult situations, and that's what Dr. Martinez is for." Slowly, gradually, Lily began to open up in therapy. She talked about feeling like she was never good enough, like she had to be perfect to earn love. She talked about the confusion of being told she should be grateful for having a family when all she'd ever wanted was to belong to one naturally. The hardest part, Dr. Martinez told us after a few sessions, is that Lily has internalized the message that love is conditional. She believes she has to earn affection through good behavior and compliance. We worked on rebuilding her confidence at home too. We made sure to praise her for just being herself, not for being helpful or well-behaved. We included her in every family decision that was age-appropriate. We talked openly about adoption, being something that made our family special, not something that made her different. The breakthrough came about 2 months into therapy. I was tucking Lily into bed one night when she suddenly looked up at me with those serious brown eyes and asked, "Mama, it wasn't me, right? It was them." My heart clenched. "What do you mean, baby?" The reason Grandma Linda and Grandpa Jim treated me differently, it wasn't because I was bad or because I wasn't good enough. It was because they couldn't see how wonderful I am. I pulled her into the tightest hug I could manage without squeezing the breath out of her. "Oh, Lily, yes, it was absolutely them, not you. You are perfect exactly as you are. Dr. Martinez says some grown-ups have trouble with their hearts. Not like being sick, but like not knowing how to love properly. Dr. Martinez is very smart. She says it's not my job to fix their hearts. It's their job." She's absolutely right. That night, I called David at work and told him about the conversation. I could hear him crying on the other end of the line. "She's going to be okay," he said. "Our girl is going to be okay." And she was. Slowly, but surely, Lily's natural confidence began to return. She started smiling more, laughing more, asking for things she wanted instead of trying to guess what we wanted her to want. The supervised visits with Mia resumed after about 6 weeks. Elena made sure they happened at neutral locations, playgrounds, and pizza places where the focus was on the kids having fun together, rather than navigating family dynamics. Watching Lily and Mia play together was both heartbreaking and beautiful. Despite everything that had happened, Mia genuinely loved Lily, and Lily loved her back. They had an easy, natural relationship that reminded me what family was supposed to look like. "Lily's my favorite cousin," Mia announced one day at Elena's house. "I don't care what anyone says." It was Elena who eventually convinced Jim and Linda to attend a family therapy session. Not with Lily, but with just the adults. "Your son is not going to change his mind," she told them, "and your granddaughter is not going to disappear. You can either figure out how to be part of this family or you can lose David and Lily forever." The session was difficult. Jim and Linda were defensive at first, insisting they'd done their best and that we were being too sensitive. But Dr. Martinez didn't let them off the hook. "Let me ask you this," she said during one particularly tense moment. "If Mia had spilled juice in your kitchen, would you have made her scrub the floor alone for 7 hours? The silence that followed was deafening. "If Mia had asked to come on a family outing, would you have told her she wasn't really family?" More silence. "The difference in your treatment of these children is not about their behavior or their needs. It's about your own beliefs about what makes a family legitimate." It took several sessions, but slowly Jim and Linda began to understand the damage they'd caused. The real turning point came 4 months after our confrontation. Linda called me on a Tuesday evening, her voice shaky and uncertain. "Jane, could we talk in person?" There are things I need to say to you and to Lily. We met at a coffee shop neutral territory where emotions could be managed and voices could be kept low. Linda looked like she'd aged years in the past few months. I've been seeing someone, she said after we'd sat down. A counselor, Elena insisted, and Jim finally agreed we needed help. She stared into her coffee cup for a long moment before continuing. I need you to know that I was wrong. About everything. About Lily, about adoption, about what makes a family real. I waited, not trusting my voice yet. Love isn't blood, Linda said quietly. I was wrong to think it was. I was wrong to treat Lily like she was less than Mia. I was wrong to make a child feel like she had to earn love instead of just receiving it. Linda, I started. No, let me finish. Please. She looked up at me and I could see tears in her eyes. I hurt a little girl who did nothing wrong except need a family. I made her feel unwanted in her own grandparents' house. I made her scrub floors and beg for inclusion and doubt her own worth. She paused, wiping her eyes with a tissue. I don't know if you can forgive me. I don't know if Lily can forgive me. But I need you to know that I understand now what I did, and I'm ashamed of it. What changed? I asked gently. Elena made me watch a video of Lily and Mia playing together. Just playing being kids loving each other. And I realized that little girl, your daughter, our granddaughter, was trying so hard to be good enough for us when she was already perfect. Linda reached into her purse and pulled out a small wrapped box. I bought this for Lily, for her birthday, that we missed while we were being stubborn and cruel. Will you give it to her? And will you tell her that her grandma Linda is very, very sorry? Inside, the box was a delicate silver bracelet with a small heart charm. Engraved on the heart were the words, "Forever Family." If she's willing, Linda continued, I'd like to try again, slowly, carefully, with supervision if you need it. I want to learn how to be the grandmother she deserves. 6 months later, we had our first family dinner with Jim and Linda since the confrontation. It was tense at first, but watching Linda carefully make sure Lily got the first piece of cake, watching Jim ask Lily about her school projects, with genuine interest watching them both work so hard to rebuild what they'd broken. It felt like hope. Lily wore her Forever Family bracelet to dinner that night. Afterwards, as we were getting ready to leave, Lily hugged both of her grandparents goodbye. It was tentative, careful, but it was real. Thank you for dinner, Grandma Linda, she said politely. Thank you for giving me another chance, sweetheart, Linda replied, her voice thick with emotion. On the drive home, David reached over and squeezed my hand. You were right, he said, about all of it, and I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. We got there eventually, I replied. That's what matters. What do you think made the difference? What finally changed them? I thought about it for a moment, watching Lily in the rearview mirror as she played with her bracelet. I think, I said finally, we teach others how to love our children by how fiercely we protect them. When we stood up for Lily, when we refused to accept less than she deserved, we showed Jim and Linda that she was worth fighting for. And when someone's worth fighting for, David said, they're worth loving. I finished. Today, 3 years later, Lily is 12 years old and thriving. She still sees Dr. Martinez occasionally, but more for check-ins than crisis management. Her relationship with Jim and Linda is different now, more honest and authentic than it ever was before. They've learned to see her not as an obligation or a favor to David, but as their granddaughter, really truly their granddaughter. And Lily has learned something even more valuable. She's learned that love isn't something you earn through perfect behavior or grateful compliance. Love is something you deserve simply because you exist. That's the lesson I want every adopted child, every blended family, every person who's ever felt like. If this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to stand up for someone you love against family members who couldn't see their worth? Your story matters too. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.